So here we are with the 8 mindset shifts to build a seven-figure practice. And if that's truly our goal is to really love and serve. And I want to start by saying this. I had a call yesterday with a client who is not a coaching client. And he called me just out of the blue and he said, I'm having trouble with a couple of patients who I've extended myself to. In other words, he's given discounts, he's given some free care, he's delayed their payments out of the goodness of his heart. And now, basically, they're telling him they can't pay and they're in financial trouble. And he said, what should he do? Should he send them to collections? I said, well, I said, what is the purpose of chiropractic? What is our goal as chiropractor? Why do you feel you're in this profession? He goes, well, and he's a very spiritually focused guy, faith focused guy. And he said, well, I feel that this is my calling. I feel God put me here for a reason. I said, if that really is true for you and you're serving people because you're serving God by serving people through chiropractic, would it be part of the plan to send them to collections if they don't pay? And he said, okay. He goes, you just answered my question for me. I said, okay, well, that's good. We put things in perspective. So if truly our goal is to serve people, then if that's really it, and if our service, if we can take it to a place in our heart where we're here as a result of the fact that our predestined journey, God had this plan by the time we were conceived, by the time we were in a twinkle in our father and mother's eye, we were preconceived, predetermined to become chiropractors, and we're here for no other reason than that. And it's our mission, it's our duty, it's our service to care for people and allow the full expression of life, allow the full expression of the personification of the God within them. That's philosophically speaking, and those are not my words. Those are words right from Jim Sigafus years ago, who spoke that into me, and I'm sharing it with you. If that's truly it, then we want to see as many people as possible. And as a result, and as a nice side effect, as a result of that, our uh, our life is going to be completely enhanced. Like our finances are going to be abundant, our relationships are going to be abundant because it all comes from love. It comes through us. It comes from love. So if that's our mindset, if we can start with that foundation, here are the 8 mindset shifts. So number one, in your office, create an environment where people like to come. Now, here's the thing, people don't want to come to a place where everybody's in pain. Like that's miserable. You don't want to see a day full of people who are complaining about pain. I know I don't. I'm quite certain that everybody on the line here would agree. The last thing you want is to go in and see 50, 60, 100, 200 people, however many people you see in a day, and have all of them complain about pain. My dream practice was the practice where I could go in morning to the end of the day, see as many people as possible so I did not have a break, and every single one of those people came in without one symptom, without a complaint. That was my dream practice. So how did I try to create that? Well, they all had to understand why they were coming. They all had to understand the principle. So share the principle with everybody. So pain treatment is not sexy. It's not a sexy thing. So if we're doing anything in our office to amplify the treatment of pain or address the treatment of pain, that's not good. So we got to get away from that. So what is sexy? Well, get off medications. That's pretty darn sexy. That's a really hot topic, especially now with the changes that are going on in the political realm of the United States with RFK Jr. in place. All these things are coming to light, especially the whole vaccine topic. That's really becoming very, very prevalent. Achieve your unlimited potential. That's a sexy topic. Create your beach body. If we're going to talk about nutrition or have nutrition seminars, these are sexy things. Heal physically, spiritually, and emotionally. When people start hearing that, that's a sexy thing. That's something that people want to be part of. And how about raise strong, intelligent, creative children outside of the medical model? These are all sexy things. So if we're talking about things that create this energy and vibration, people want to be part of it. If we're constantly talking about pain and pain relief, guess why your office is not growing? Guess why people are not following through their care plan or quitting before the first re-exam? That's why you're attracting a lot of pain-based, tire-kicking patients. So number two is make your team rich. They're the most important people in your practice. Your team will make or break your practice. Make them rich. Here's the thing, you won't hold yourself accountable. And there's some of you, and I know I can see the names and faces on the line right here. So, I can see that the fact is you will not force yourself to do the things to help yourself to grow or to create a practice that is double of the size that you have right now. You won't do it for yourself. Do it for your team. Do it for your team who are completely vested in your vision, completely invested in caring for the people in their community, and they come to work every day not because they're going to get rich. They get paid a minimal amount, but they love what they do. So share your vision, enhance their vision, and create a financial plan that encourages them to continue with that vision. And as your office continues to grow, they benefit financially from that. That's the way a great office grows. That's why I had team members who are still there now, 2.5 years after the practice was sold, with the doctor who bought the practice and have been there for 26, 21, and 19 years. And actually, the fourth one's been there for almost 10 years now. So that's the whole thing. That's what we did. We cast a vision for them. We created a financial plan that as the office grew, they were compensated, and it was a win-win. So if you don't have that in place, put that in place. Your team is going to make or break your practice. So just do that. Number three, sell value, not time. Some of you are spending way too long with people. You're trying to justify the 50, 60, $70 they pay, the 75 bucks that they pay. Oh, maybe I need to spend 15 minutes. Maybe I need to spend 20 minutes. Maybe I need to spend 4 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever that is. It doesn't take long to flick a light switch. If we truly understand the value of chiropractic and correcting subluxation, we can make an adjustment in seconds, and that's all it takes. There's the story of the plumber. This high-rise company building was having a plumbing issue, and nobody could figure out where the leak was coming from. So they ended up hiring a high class plumber. Maybe that's a contradiction of terms, but it was a high class plumber who came in, found the problem in 15 minutes and fixed it and charged the corporation $5,000. And the corporation questioned, said, "You came in and did this in 15 minutes. Why is the bill $5,000?" He said, "You're not paying for my time. You're paying for the expertise of me studying the architecture and knowing the way that this building was built and designed to figure out the root cause of that problem." It's the same thing with us. You have put all kinds of time into your schooling, undergrad, chiropractic school, board exams, seminars, coaching, all these things to make yourself better. You have incredible knowledge. You deserve to be paid for it, not to spend time with people. If you're spending time with people doing anything other than removing the interference from their nervous system, somebody else can do that. You don't become a millionaire by doing $10 tasks. Okay, so think about that. So sell value, not time. Number four is model, then modify. So make the change without thinking about it. So many of you, and I know there's some of you on this line here that want to grow and want to get better, but you're stuck with this paralysis by analysis. You're thinking, gosh, I know Dr. Brian told me to do this and this. I know Dr. Colin told me to put this in place and this in place, but we need to modify it to our system. And oh, well, we did it this way for this long, and it'll be so tough for us to change it. And oh, and you wonder why you're not getting results. You've got, so here I'm going to address this too. And I'm going to say some hard, one of the things with coaching is being able to bring up some hard topics um, to hold you guys accountable, right? And I'm going to tell this, I'm not going to mention any names, but so we did a call a couple weeks ago, and I had my staff member Diana on that call. And Diana has been one of the CAs that have been with us for 21 years, 21 years in the office. So she's been through the growth, from the time and when we first joined the coaching program, Body by God, which turned into Teach the World, which turned into Maximize Living, which turned into Max Living, which is now DC2 here in Canada. Um, we started out around, we had great practice, 400 or 500 people a week, but I knew there was more. I knew we could grow. We didn't have good systems in place. So we learned the systems. And I'm going to tell you, and she started with us right around that same time. We just did it stupid. I didn't question it. I didn't say, oh, we need to modify this. I just said, okay, if you tell me how to do it this way, I'm going to learn it this way. That's the way I'm going to do it. And Kim agreed, and we just did it. And we got rid of all of this, all of the extraneous stuff that we were doing. We started talking and saying things that were outside of our comfort zone because we knew we had to expand that comfort zone to grow. And it was like magic. Like within 3 months, our practice grew from 400 or 500 people a week over to over 800 a week. We eventually hit 1,200 a week, and we sustained that volume above 1,000 a week for years and years. And Diana was there through all of it. And so she came on the call, and one of the things that we did was that dinner program that we talked about. And we actually had a complaint about that call that it was unprepared. It was totally unprepared. It was purposely unprepared because I didn't want it to sound scripted. I want it to sound genuine. And so here's the thing, like if I'm on a call like that and I'm hearing a CA who has worked in an office for 20 years that has seen 1,200 people a week, I am taking notes. I'm asking questions. I'm going to bring my team on that call to listen to what she says. And I'm going to take everything she says and I'm going to go back to my team and say, this is exactly what we're doing. We're going to try it. And we're going to struggle and fumble with it until we get it right, because this is the way that you. So you guys, this is the whole thing, is that one thing I learned, and I hope that you get this, is if you're struggling in your life and in your practice, look at people who have done big things. Look at, you have Dr. Brian, who built a practice to 800. I think he's down around 500 right now as far as number of people a week, as now a single doc with a magical team. Like, they're incredible. Dr. Justine broke 800 a week. I mean, she works harder than anybody I know. She puts in more hours than anybody I know. We were on a call the other day and we were talking about people who just complained about not having enough time. And Dr. Justine, she made the best comment ever. She said, just effing get up earlier. Like, it was so beautiful. I love it. I actually, and that's what I love about her. Like, just like stop making complaints and just just excuses for things. So just start doing things because you see the value in it. You've seen somebody else do it, and stop questioning it.
One
All
thing
right.
I'd like to jump in on their call.
Yeah.
Just this is
Awesome.
a huge piece of coachability. And this is something that I've seen in, well, coaching for a decade, but also looking back, I could say you've done it. I could say I've done it. I could say Justine's done it for sure. And where people get, I find, tripped up is when I saw someone doing something that was a higher level, and I'm like, I'd really like that. I just go and do what they were doing. I didn't ask questions, just like, okay, if it works for them, I'm going to try it. Now, after you get feedback from your environment, you may tweak it and modify it based on the feedback you're getting from your patients, from the environment, to make it work better. And like doing something in Toronto is a bit different than doing something in Brantford, right? There's going to be some tweaks to it, but it's going to start out the exact same, and then you refine it. um, what I find some people do is they look at it, they think about it, they analyze it, they're trying to think if it's going to work, and that's the wrong way to do it. Like I can say see it in practice, like coaching doctors. I can also say it. I see in coaching my son's hockey team. The boys who advance the best are the strongest players. When myself and the guy I coach with who played pro, we tell the boys this is how you do it. They just go do it, and then they refine it as their skill set. Like that type of thing, versus the other boys, and they're trying to figure it out. You just need to go do it and practice it. The refinement will come as you're doing it. You just got to put it into play.
So thank you. And this actually just perfectly segues into our next point, which is number 5, which is default to action. So many of us, we think ourselves out of any type of action. And like I said earlier, it's paralysis by analysis. So default to action. So start before you're ready. So stop thinking about it and just start doing it. It's switching from the ready, aim, fire mentality to the fire, aim, ready mentality. And you just modify it as you just get off. It's called Goyo. Get off your ass. Goyo, Goyo, or get Goya. Sorry. Get off your ass and just start doing things and modify it as you go. Um, which brings us then to number 6, which is become more valuable. So if you want to succeed better, just become more valuable. So we had one of the things that we did to create culture in our office was we started a nutrition program, and obviously wanted to have that extra form of income and sell more supplements and make sure that people were. Why would I want them to go to the pharmacy or go to the health food store and buy their supplements there when they could buy it there, and I could monitor them taking it if I had more knowledge. So I went and I bought a course. I took a course. It was a fellow who taught us in chiropractic school. You may know him, Dr. James Machino. And I took a course and it cost me many thousands of dollars. And I got a degree after taking that course. And but the nice thing was is that now I have not only just a letter behind my name and the ability now to allow those patients to bill insurance for nutrition. So there was a financial gain in doing that as well, because we could advertise that. And also just the knowledge and the certainty and the confidence to be able to tell them with authority what they were doing right and what they were doing wrong with nutrition. And our nutrition program in our office blossomed. It was a huge source of extra income in my last 5, 6 years of practice. And so, if, not to mention the personal gain that I had in my own nutrition by taking that course. So become more valuable. So choose education over entertainment. So many of us are wasting so much time by entertaining ourselves with whatever that may be. Poor people spend money on 75-inch TVs, but rich people spend money on coaching, courses, and libraries. Wealthy people have an extensive library of knowledge. If you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find a bigger room. So start hanging out with people who are going to have a bigger influence on your collective mentality, right? So if you're hanging around with people who are bringing your mentality down to their level, or have small goals, or have small visions, then it's time to find a different group of friends. Number 7 is stay focused. So remember, I said poor people buy 75-inch TVs. Well, poor people also buy distraction. That's the whole thing. So it takes them away from their focus. You want to know where your priorities lay? Look at your calendar and your bank account. And again, so somebody made the comment this morning about needing more time to make decisions. And yes, we apologized because we were waiting for a lot of different things to fall into place before we actually firmed up our dates for our calendar. So now the calendar is March the 8th will be our seminar in Toronto, as well as October 31st. So our Canadian calendar is fixed now. There were a lot of variables pulling into that. So just make sure you mark it on your calendars, but it's still over a month away. So, and here's the biggest priority thing. If I came up and told you that, hey, we're having a seminar this Saturday in Toronto, and Elon Musk is showing up, or Guy Reekman is showing up, or you would change your schedule to get there, right? Jeff Bezos is going to be the speaker at our seminar tomorrow morning at Brian's office in Toronto. Guess what? I'm clearing my day and I'm making travel plans to get there so I can get to that seminar. So look at your priorities before you start complaining about things that, and timing and stuff like that. It's only a priority thing. So whatever you want to happen in your life, make it a higher priority, and then it will happen. Your bank account and your calendar will define your priorities. Get up earlier. Dr. Justine said it. People with purpose don't need sleep. Okay, people with when you find you have a fire in your belly and you have purpose, you can't wait to get up in the morning. Like, you can't wait for that alarm to go off at 4 o'clock. There's often mornings I have something on my mind. I'm waking up at 3:30 in the morning. I have to get myself up out of bed and get going, because there's something that's just, there's fire brewing in my stomach because I'm so excited about something. All right, number 8, law of 300%. So the law of 300% says if you have 100% clarity on your vision, you have 100% belief that you can get there, and you have 100% execution, you're going to succeed. Where we fail is where we don't have 100% of each of those things. And there was a story, and I remember when I was writing this down, I heard the story of it was like a Tony Hawk skateboarder guy, and there was a certain type of trick that he was trying to do, and he kept trying it and kept trying it and kept trying it, and finally his coach came up to him and said, I know every time you try to attempt that trick, you're going to fail. And he said, well, how do you know that? He goes, because I can see the belief or the disbelief in your mind before you start. He said, you have not visualized yourself pulling off that trick. And he thought to himself for a moment. He said, you're right. I every time I go to attempt that trick, he goes, I'm worried about getting hurt. I'm worried about, breaking my ankle, and whatever it was. And he said, you need to visualize yourself pulling that trick off and having it clearly defined in your mind before you execute it. So sure enough, he came back the next time and he actually started thinking about it and pictured himself doing the trick and pictured himself pulling it off. And from all the different angles, he could visualize himself doing it. Sure enough, he pulled it off. So this is the whole thing, is that, some of you want to grow a bigger practice. You want to see more people. You want to serve more. You want to make more money. You want to have more freedom, but you haven't clearly visualized what that looks like yet. And I'll give you a perfect example. There were times where we would hover around when we were in a state of growth, and we get to 800 a week, and we hovered there for a while. And I would always ask, like, how can we get to the next schedule? And it was always through asking questions or seeing somebody else doing something bigger that expanded my mind. And here's the perfect example. I remember talking to one of my coaches back then when we were hovering around 800 a week about trying to get bigger. And all he said, something simple, he goes, well, how many times do you adjust somebody? I said, well, here I'm a CMCC graduate. Typically, we do diversified adjusting. Everybody that comes in, I don't do any soft tissue, anything. I tried to limit my part A of that adjustment, my talking beforehand, my talking afterhand. I tried to really minimize my time with that person, but my adjusting time was still a certain amount of time because I was adjusting probably 5 segments, 6 segments on everybody that I saw. He goes, just limit it to 3. And he actually said, neurologically, the body can't comprehend too many adjustments. He goes, you're actually causing distraction in the nervous system if you're adjusting too many. He said BJ Palmer got to the point where he's making one adjustment on each person. So that was like a brain bust to me. And so I just said, okay, I'm only going to adjust 3 segments. And I went back in the office, boom, over, like within a few months, over 1,000 a week. And it's these subtle little mindset shifts you make that allow you to get to the next level. Justine, you got something to
I
join?
have something to say about that. And I agree. I was making the mistake of, for example, even if it did drop on the pelvis, thinking I had to do it 2 or 3 times. Like it was the same SI joint or same L5. Somehow I did the drop more than once because that probably was showing my personal lack of confidence in the first time I did the adjustment. And I realized when I stopped doing that, of course, it saved time, but also demonstrated more certainty with the first adjustment for the patient. And I have observed several doctors this year and in the last 2 years, and I found that was consistent, was double checking, triple checking, or using a drop more than once. And if using an instrument, like, now if you're using an instrument, it's like 20 adjustments with an instrument. Or the arthrostim, thinking you have to go multiple times up and down the spine versus once. So I did notice that. And then I noticed for myself personally is when I was growing, I started asking myself, can I just have an easier day, like a day with less fires, a day with less problems? And then I would self-sabotage and stop the growth. And so really self-check that when you're growing, more shit's on your plate, you're busier, there's more problems going to have your way, there's going to be more people quitting, there's going to be more people, trying to customize their payment plan, there's going to be more staff quit. Like growth revolves more problems. And are you ready for it? Because if you're not, you just self-sabotage every time we ask for an easier day. And I've done it, so I am assuming others have done that, thinking I just want one easy day. I just want a day of adjusting and not like 20 progress exams and 5 of them are like, well, I'm not improving fast enough, right? We've all had those challenges where patients could challenge us, and it's not every shift. I'm not saying that, but you get that crappy shift and you wish you didn't have that crappy shift. Instead of saying, wait a minute, bring it on. I'm a beast. Or I remember Dr. Mike saying, I'm the sultan of subluxations. And that's also not just physical, but mental subluxations within the patient and within the team.
Awesome. I remember one of my early coaches was Dr. Rob Schiffman. And if you've never heard of Dr. Rob, so Dr. Rob has been known as the all-time, in the history of the profession, busiest chiropractor ever. he had a practice of 3,000 visits per week. He still practices now, over 40 years in practice. So 3,000 patient visits per week. And I remember getting on the phone with him and talking to him. And honestly, I was in so much awe of him. It was almost like getting on the phone with one of your superheroes, you know? So half the time he was telling me things, and I wasn't even coherent. I couldn't even speak the same language because he was speaking on a level that was so far above my comprehension. But here's something too, and I couldn't visualize in my mind 3,000 patient visits a week. He was seeing on average 600 to 700 people a day. So put that in your mind, 600 to 700 a day. And the way that I was adjusting, I was trying to interpret that in my terms. So I couldn't grasp it. I couldn't understand it until it was actually another doc who went to see his practice and came back and said, I spent an hour at Rob Schiffman's office watching him adjust. And he said, I watched him for 45 minutes go from, it wasn't even, it was open concept with Gonstead chairs. And he said people were coming in groves, and there was perfectly well documented system. It was a very systematic routine that they would go and sit in those Gonstead chairs, and he would go around and he would make one adjustment to each person. And he would put their hands, or put his hands on their head and say a little prayer, and then go to the next person. He said he didn't spend more than 10 to 15 seconds with each person. One adjustment, little prayer, next person. And all of a sudden my mind was blown. And he said I watched him for 45 minutes and he saw 148 people in those 45 minutes. Well, my mind was just totally blown by hearing that, because now I had a picture of what it looked like. And that at the same time helped me to go back and be more efficient in our office. And it was actually at the same time I went and did a talk at CMCC. And this is actually really cool. It was the student club that brought me in, and I was in the lecture hall at CMCC. 200 students there, and of course I started out philosophically, started talking about subluxation and the principle of, the universal intelligence and the major premise of chiropractic. And probably about 40 of those people got up and walked out. Like I was talking a language that they didn't believe in, or they were taught against. Right. So 40 of them, but the ones who stayed were fully engaged, which was really cool. Talked for about an hour. At the end of it, I had literally 60 people come down and gather around and start asking questions. And one person asked to get adjusted. So I set down a chair, and this was after hearing about Rob Schiffman, made one simple adjustment, then the next person, then the next person. I adjusted 60 people in 30 minutes, which I had never done before. So that itself was mind blowing for me, to be able to go back to the office saying I could adjust, like hypothetically, I could adjust 100 people an hour if I wanted to set it up that way. So again, it just broke down the walls of the limits I had set on myself. So don't be afraid to walk into a space to expand your mind, because here's the quote is, you'll never exceed the limit that your mind puts on yourself. So start expanding your mind, you'll exceed your limits. That's all I got today, guys. I appreciate your time. So let's open it up here. You got any comments or questions you'd like to ask?
As the questions are coming in, I just want to double down on something you said earlier, and I'd encourage pretty much everybody on the line to do this. And one thing I learned early, and if you listen to Darren Hardy, you listen to Tony, you listen to all these growth people, like they talk about the speed of implementation. And there's actually scientific studies out there that say just making a decision is going to lead to a better result than thinking about it. So even if you're wrong, but making a decision and going is going to give you a better outcome than if you don't make a decision, you hang out and just think about it.
I agree with you, Brian. And I remember being super scared to go open concept. So I was only at about 100 a week. And Dr. Mike said you had to open up the doors, like get rid of the closed rooms. And so I didn't have the money, borrowed the money from mom, made holes in the walls, put up, and it was like within 2 weeks went up 100 visits just because of my steps didn't think, just borrowed the money and did it. And I mean, I was borrowing like $500. Like it wasn't like I didn't have that $500 and I went for it, and it never looked back. And I probably say that the longer I've been in practice, it's harder to have that mentality. It's a lot easier when you're younger and you don't know. The older you get, the more stuck in your ways you get. And then it's even harder to make those changes and to kind of give yourself a reset and reassess. And so uh, I do think that that's really good for the doctors to do that. And I try to do that for myself after the seminar. So example is after the last seminar, I was like, I need to listen to my Tony Robbins tapes again. So you'll see them, like I put them back out, that there's old school Tony Robbins cassette. I had to find my CD player because it's old, 20 years, but I'm going to listen to that again for myself every morning. But then for my team, I've learned that I got to go a little slower, and take the steps for training a little slower. So what's necessarily good for me to go fast, sometimes for the team, so you don't blow them out of the water or lose team. I've learned to go a little slower with them and not blow them, come back with 30 changes, because then they feel they can't handle it. So there's maybe realizing what personalities love that and what personalities don't on your team.
I'll also say the best way to make changes with team is first to explain how it's the patient's benefit to do it. Like that's a huge piece. And I'd say for anyone here, if you're like, I'm thinking of putting some in, I don't know how this benefits the patient, ask the question. Everything is patients first. So ask the question. I find that really helps team understand it. They get their arms around it. They're more willing to adapt faster. And I'll also say back on your thing, Justine, like most of the things that hold us back, they're in our head. They aren't necessarily the reality. Same thing when I went from closed room to open concept. Um, first I took the doors off, and then, we blew walls out, and the people I was most worried about, I'm like, this person is such a private person. They're gonna hate this open concept. Were some of the first people be like, wow, this office is so nice, open. We can see the windows from everywhere. Like those are some of the big things. It was all in me, and not the real reality, not the territory.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Anybody else?
I would say that I also, by watching other people, I realized sometimes I was doing adjustments simply because I did that adjustment, and maybe they didn't even need it. And I'll give you an example. And I mean, maybe embarrassed to say, but maybe it's a leg pull. Um, I don't know. Is like even a cervical traction. I'm like, wait a minute, they're doing so great. I don't need to do that. And even though that is only 5 more seconds, um, their body doesn't even need it, and I can use that 5 seconds better. And sometimes it's resetting on each individual patient. Are you really doing what they need? Are you doing what you're comfortable with and what you've always done or what you've been doing? Because their adjustment, the number of adjustments can go down, like you said, as well as doesn't have to be the same, especially years later. And weaning them off is a process.
I had a conversation the other day with Dr. Graham. I don't think Dr. Graham's on the line, but he's one of our new clients in Calgary. And he was talking about his flow. And of course, he sees people and he gives them a quote unquote care plan. That was the way that we described it. It's not really a care plan, but his course of action in the early stages. And then his goal was to get them on monthly maintenance. And I said, well, why? He goes, well, we want them to be on monthly maintenance. I said, well, why though? What's the rationale? So I'm just challenging, right? I'm asking questions. So this is a challenge to you guys, is why? So, and he said, well, that's what we were taught. And I said, well, why do they teach you that? He goes, well, I don't know. I said, so here's the thing, is that if you can have justification for everything that you suggest and everything that you do in your office, wouldn't that be more substantial? Wouldn't people be able to logically look at that and say, okay, I understand why he's telling me monthly maintenance? Well, we always told people it was weekly maintenance. Well, why? Well, it went back to that study that I shared with you guys, which is on our client portal. If you haven't downloaded it yet, why is weekly wellness care so important? And that study from 1987, Tapio Vitamin, Journal of Clinical Biomechanics, said that uh, the spine, when it is immobilized, in other words, fixated, locked up. He didn't use the term subluxated, but we extrapolated and used the term subluxated. When the spine is subluxated, there becomes irreversible radiological changes in the trabecular patterns of those bones. In other words, the spine creates arthritis when it is subluxated within 6 to 12 days. So is that what you want? You want to come once a month and give yourself an extra 2 or 3 weeks for your spine to degenerate and become more arthritic? Riddick, that's perfectly fine if you want to do that. Me, I want to get adjusted once a week to stay ahead of that so I don't accumulate arthritic changes in my spine. And people would go, okay, yeah, I'm coming once a week. So there was justification for why we suggested that. And it was like an eye-opening thing for Dr. Graham. So now he's got that flyer in his office and he's sharing it with everybody. What, this is why they should come once a week. So have justification for things that you do, and start asking why am I doing these things? And so Justine, you brought that up. Start challenging yourself for some of the things that you just habitually do. Why do you habitually do them? What is the rationale behind them?